The battle for the princess. The storm of laser fire tore through the black sky, turning the alien palace grounds into a field of burning glass. Captain Ryan Hale ran through the smoke. His armor cracked, his rifle nearly empty, yet his focus stayed on one thing, the cry of the alien princess echoing from the collapsing tower. The war between humans and the Thalri Empire had ended months ago, or so everyone believed, but this planet, Valara Prime, still burned with old grudges. A rebel faction of the Thalri had stormed the royal palace. Shouting for vengeance, they wanted the queen's daughter. Princess Lyra, taken alive, and Hale had been ordered to protect her until extraction. He reached the tower's lower hall, heat waves rippling through the air. He could hear the sharp voice of the rebel leader shouting, "Find the human! Bring me his head!" Hale crouched behind a marble pillar, reloading his rifle. His heart pounded like the engines of a destroyer. He had seen battle before, but never for something or someone like this. He spotted her at last, Lyra, her silver hair tangled, her breathing shallow, trapped behind fallen debris. Her lavender eyes widened when she saw him. "You came back," she whispered, her voice trembling. Hale grinned slightly despite the chaos. "Told you I don't leave anyone behind," he said, pulling her free from the rubble. But as soon as he lifted her, the sound of footsteps thundered closer. A dozen Thalri soldiers poured into the corridor, glowing spears aimed straight at him. Hale fired, each pulse of his rifle lighting the hall. He moved like a shadow, protecting Lyra with his own body. The rebels' shots scorched the walls, and one grazed his arm, burning through armor and skin. Still, he kept moving. "Stay close," he said, pulling her behind a pillar. She trembled but nodded, clutching his jacket. "They won't stop," she said. "They'll kill you for me." Hale smirked. "Then they'll have to catch me first." He grabbed a fallen grenade from the floor, tossed it toward the rebels, and dragged Lyra toward the service tunnels as the blast shook the entire tower. Flames roared behind them, dust filled the air. They stumbled down the narrow passage, coughing, the sounds of war fading into a distant hum. When they reached the hangar bay, Hale saw what he feared. Their shuttle was gone. Burned to ashes, only a damaged transport ship remained. Old and leaking coolant, Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "We're trapped," she said. Hale shook his head. "Not yet." He pulled open the hatch and started rewiring the controls, his hands shaking from blood loss. "This bucket can fly," he said. "If you believe in miracles." Suddenly, an explosion tore through the far wall. The rebel leader appeared, his black armor glowing with energy. "Human," he roared. "You dare touch the royal blood of Valara?" Hale turned, putting himself between Lyra and the enemy, his voice low and steady. "She's under my protection." The leader laughed, raising his plasma blade. "Then you die protecting her." Hale raised his rifle, empty, then drew his sidearm. "We'll see about that." The two clashed in the ruins of the hangar. Sparks flew, steel met plasma. Hale fought with every ounce of strength left. His armor cracked, his vision blurred, but he didn't fall. When the leader thrust forward for the killing blow, Lyra screamed, energy flaring around her. The ground shook as a pulse of violet light erupted from her body. Throwing the rebel across the room, Hale shielded his face from the flash. When it cleared, the leader lay motionless, and Lyra stood trembling, glowing faintly. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. Hale looked at her, stunned. "You just saved both of us," he said. She stared back at him, tears glimmering. "No," she said softly. "You saved me first," he smiled faintly, pressing his wound. The ship's console sparked to life behind him. "We're getting out of here," he said. Guiding her aboard, the engine screamed, smoke pouring from the vents as the transport lifted off through the shattered roof. Rebel fire chased them into the sky. Below, the palace burned, and above them, the stars stretched endless and cold. Hale glanced at Lyra as she watched her home disappear into the clouds. He didn't know what awaited them next, only that the queen would never forget what he had done, nor easily let a human walk away with her daughter. The war might have ended, but for Ryan Hale it had only just begun. The queen's judgment. The transport ship limped through the void, sparks flickering across its broken hull. Captain Ryan Hale sat in the pilot's chair, blood seeping through his uniform. His hand trembled on the controls, but he refused to rest beside him. Princess Lyra stared out the window in silence, her eyes reflecting the cold stars. For hours, neither spoke. The hum of the engines was the only sound in the dying ship. Finally, Hale broke the silence. "We'll reach orbit soon. The distress beacon should bring a rescue ship." Lyra turned her gaze toward him. "And then what?" she asked softly. Your people will take me as a hostage? Hale frowned. No, princess, I don't take hostages. I save lives. Before she could answer, the console beeped sharply. A massive shadow appeared on the scanner. The ship trembled as a colossal cruiser descended from hyperspace, emblazoned with the royal crest of Valara Prime. It's my mother's flagship, Lyra whispered, fear and relief mixing in her voice. Hale's gut tightened. The queen herself? He muttered. Guess she doesn't like to send flowers. A bright blue tractor beam locked onto their vessel, dragging them into the belly of the cruiser. The ship jolted, alarms blaring. Hale unbuckled and stood, his expression calm but wary. Stay behind me, he said. Lyra nodded, though she knew her mother's fury would be aimed at him. Not her. The hangar doors opened with a hiss. Dozens of royal guards surrounded them, armored in gold and silver. Their weapons gleamed under the lights at the far end. A tall figure emerged, the Queen of Valara, regal and fierce. Her long robe shimmered like molten starlight, and her eyes, the same shade of violet as her daughter's, burned with cold anger. Bring the human forward, she commanded. Her voice echoed like thunder in the vast chamber. Hale stood tall as the guards escorted him closer. His wounds still fresh, his face streaked with soot, yet his gaze never wavered. Lyra ran to her mother, bowing low. Mother, please, he saved me, she pleaded. The rebels would have killed me if not for him. The queen raised a hand, silencing her. You speak of a human as if he were a hero, she said sharply. Our kind suffered because of their wars. Because of their greed, she turned to Hale. Why did you interfere, Terran? Hale met her gaze steadily. Because no one deserves to die for someone else's hate, he said. Not your daughter, not anyone. The hall grew quiet. The queen's eyes softened for the briefest moment, then hardened again. Your words are noble, but your presence is dangerous, she said. You crossed into royal space without permission. You touched the royal bloodline. Two guards stepped forward. Raising their weapons, Lyra gasped. No! She cried, stepping in front of Hale. He protected me with his life. You can't harm him. The queen's jaw tightened. He saved you, yes, but he has also created a bond that cannot be undone. Hale frowned. Bond? The queen approached slowly, her gaze piercing. When you shielded her from death, your life force intertwined with hers. It is the ancient law of Valara, the protector's thread. Lyra's eyes widened. That's impossible, she whispered. The queen shook her head. The thread is rare but real as long as you live. Her life is tied to yours. If one dies, so does the other. The room went silent. Hale's breath caught. He looked at Lyra, who stared at him with shock and fear. So if I go home? He began. The queen interrupted coldly. You cannot. You belong here now. Human. The guards lowered their weapons. The queen turned away. He will stay under royal watch, she ordered. No one leaves until I decide his fate, Lyra reached out. Mother, please! But the queen raised a hand, ending all protest. Two guards escorted Hale through the shining corridors of the ship. He didn't resist, his mind raced. The protector's thread, an ancient alien law, had sealed his fate. Yet as he walked, he caught a glimpse of Lyra watching from the distance. Her eyes filled with sorrow and something else. Hope. They locked him in a small chamber lined with soft blue light. Hale sat down, staring at the stars through a narrow window. He had come to save a life, but now he was trapped in a kingdom of light and secrets, and somewhere deep within the royal cruiser. The queen sat in silence, her fingers tracing a symbol on the table. The thread has chosen, she murmured, but for whose destiny? Hers or his? Far beyond the ship, unknown to them both, a new signal pulsed from the ashes of Valara Prime, one that carried a name, Captain Ryan Hale, and a message. Human interference detected, eliminate. The real war was just beginning. The human who couldn't leave. Days turned into weeks aboard the royal flagship Eternal Radiance. Captain Ryan Hale found himself a guest and a prisoner of the Valaran court. His chamber was lined with luminous crystal walls. The air scented with alien flowers, yet it still felt like a cage. Every morning, guards stood at his door, and every night, the stars outside whispered of home he could never return to. Lyra visited him often, sometimes in secret, sometimes with the queen's reluctant approval. You shouldn't be here, Hale would say each time. But his voice softened when she smiled. Then who would tell you about our customs? She teased one evening. setting a bowl of glowing fruit on the table. "You're the first human ever allowed inside the royal fleet. That must count for something," he laughed quietly. "Yeah, it counts for trouble." She tilted her head, her silver hair catching the light. "You risked your life for me, yet you fear kindness?" Hale looked down, his fingers tracing the scar on his arm. "I've just learned that kindness often costs more than bullets." Unknown to them, whispers had already begun to spread across the fleet. Soldiers and officers spoke of the human who saved the princess. Some admired him, others despised him. In a hall filled with pride and ancient law, his very presence challenged centuries of prejudice. One night the ship's alarms blared suddenly. Red lights pulsing across the walls. Hale jumped to his feet. The door burst open as Lyra ran in, breathless. "The rebels, they found us," she said. "They sent assassins to finish what they started." Hale grabbed his sidearm, though it felt tiny compared to Velaran weapons. "Where's your mother?" "In the throne chamber," Lyra said. "They're trying to breach the force field." Hale didn't hesitate. "Then let's go." Guards tried to block his path, but Lyra shouted, "He's linked to me. If he dies, I die. Let him pass." The guards hesitated, then stepped aside. They sprinted through the corridors as explosions shook the ship, energy bolts cutting through the air. Hale fired at the shadows, his instincts guiding him. The rebels had smuggled themselves aboard disguised as traitors, and now they stormed the decks. When they reached the throne hall, chaos reigned. The queen stood surrounded by guards, a golden shield shimmering around her. Dozens of assassins fought to break through. Hale dove into the fray, covering Lyra's flank. "You again," the queen muttered. Both anger and surprise in her voice, Hale grinned. "What can I say? Saving your family's becoming a bad habit." He fought with precision and fury, moving between alien warriors twice his size. His shots hit true, his blade flashing in the dim light. The queen watched silently as the human defended her empire like it was his own. Then the leader of the assassins appeared, cloaked in shadow, his voice echoing like a curse. "End the thread," he hissed. "Kill the human. And the princess dies, Valara will fall." Hale froze for a split second. The words chilling him, Lyra gasped. Realizing the rebels knew the truth of their bond, the assassin lunged, energy blade raised high. Hale caught the strike, the impact sending him crashing into a column. Pain tore through his chest. He looked up just in time to see Lyra step forward, her hands glowing. The light spread through the hall, disarming the assassins in a wave of power. When the light faded, the rebels lay unconscious, the floor scorched and smoking. Hale pushed himself up, barely breathing. "Remind me never to make you angry," he muttered. Lyra smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. "You saved me again," she whispered. He chuckled weakly. "Call it even." The queen approached, her expression unreadable. For a long moment she said nothing, then, to everyone's shock, she knelt beside Hale, placing her hand over his wound. A golden light spread from her palm, sealing the burn. "You fight as if you were born under our sun," she said quietly. "Perhaps the thread chose well." Hale looked at her, surprised. "Does that mean I can go home now?" The queen's eyes met his, deep and sorrowful. "Home?" she repeated. "Human. The bond between you and my daughter cannot be broken. If you leave this system, she will die." Silence filled the hall. Hale stared at Lyra, who looked down, trembling. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't choose this." He smiled faintly, though his heart ached. "Neither did I." The queen stood, her gaze distant. "You may no longer be a prisoner," she said. "But you are no longer free either." Hale nodded slowly. "Story of my life," he murmured that night. As the ship drifted through the void, Hale stood by the observation window, watching the stars burn like silent witnesses. Behind him, Lyra approached quietly. "You saved my mother tonight," she said softly. "And my world." He turned to her, his voice calm but full of feeling. "I didn't save your world," he said. "Just one person who believed in something good." But somewhere deep in the darkness beyond the fleet, a fleet of unknown ships began to move. Human ships, searching for their missing captain. The galaxy was about to discover that one man's bond with an alien princess could ignite a new kind of war, one not fought with weapons, but with loyalty, love, and destiny intertwined, threads of war and heart. The eternal radiance glided through the silence of space, its silver hull reflecting the faint shimmer of distant stars. Captain Ryan Hale stood on the balcony overlooking the lower decks, armored figures training in perfect formation below him. He was no longer seen as just a prisoner. He was now the Queen's appointed guardian to Princess Lyra, a position that came with both honor and invisible chains. Every day he trained beside the royal guard, learning their combat style, their energy weapons, their strange fluid motions. His human strength made him slower, but his instinct made him unpredictable. The others watched with a mix of awe and resentment. "The human fights like he's seen death," one soldier muttered. Hale only smiled. "I have," he said quietly. Lyra often joined him during the drills, watching from the edge of the arena. Sometimes she would laugh when he missed a strike. Other times she would correct him gently. "You move like a brawler," she said one day. "You must move like wind." He grinned. "Wind doesn't bleed, Princess," she smirked back. Neither do legends, but beneath their light banter, something deeper grew, an unspoken connection that went beyond the mystical bond of life and death. Hale didn't want to admit it, but every time she smiled, something in his chest stirred that no battlefield could silence. Yet peace was fragile. The Queen's spies brought news. Humans had entered Veleron space searching for their missing captain. The Terran Federation declared they would retrieve him by any means necessary. The Queen's Council demanded Hale's execution, fearing war, but the Queen refused. "He is bound to my daughter," she said firmly. "His death would be her death, and that I will not allow." The Council, however, saw another path. "If humans want him," one advisor whispered, "let them come and destroy themselves trying." The Queen dismissed them. But Hale knew politics as well as battle. He could sense the storm forming. That night, Lyra found him sitting by the observation glass again, his reflection blending with the stars. "You heard, didn't you?" she asked softly. He nodded. "They'll come for me. And they won't stop at talk." She hesitated. "If they attack, my mother will destroy them." He turned to her, his voice low but steady. "And I'll have to stop her." She looked at him in shock. "You'd fight your own kind?" Hale shook his head. "I'd fight anyone who starts another war, even if they look like me." Lyra stepped closer, her eyes shimmering. "You can't carry this alone," she whispered. "The thread ties our lives together. Maybe it ties our fates too." Hale met her gaze, realizing for the first time how much he cared, not because she was royal, but because she was kind in a galaxy that had forgotten kindness. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. A massive energy surge appeared on the sensors. Lyra's voice trembled. "They're here." On the viewing deck, the darkness rippled, and from hyperspace emerged the Terran fleet, 10 colossal warships forming a wall of metal and fire. The Queen's voice echoed through the command chamber. "Prepare defenses." Her officers obeyed instantly, but when she saw Hale enter, her expression hardened. "Your people come to steal what is mine," she said coldly. Hale's tone was firm. "They came for me, not your daughter." The Queen raised her staff. "You are bound to her, human. You are no longer theirs." Lyra stepped between them. "Please, stop," she pleaded. "This war will destroy both worlds." But neither side listened. The tension was a wire about to snap moments later. The first blast tore through the void, an energy beam from a Terran destroyer striking the Velaran shields. The ship shook violently, alarms screaming. Hale grabbed Lyra, pulling her to cover as explosions lit the sky. Outside, the stars turned red. Fighters swarmed in every direction. The eternal radiance fired back. Lances of light cutting through the dark. Hale's mind raced. His two worlds were killing each other, and he was the thread caught between them. He ran to the Queen's tactical platform, shouting over the chaos, "You have to stop this. My people don't understand your law." She turned on him, her voice sharp as a blade. "And yours do not understand mercy." Before he could respond, another explosion ripped through the deck, smoke and fire filling the air. A support beam collapsed near the Queen, but Hale dived forward, tackling her out of the way. The blast scorched his armor, his shoulder torn open. The Queen stared at him in disbelief. "You saved me," she whispered. He groaned. "Yeah, again." Lyra rushed to his side, tears streaking down her face. "He's bleeding. Stop the fight," she screamed. The Queen stood, trembling, her voice breaking for the first time. "Cease fire," she commanded. The entire fleet hesitated, and silence fell across the stars. In that silence, the Queen looked at the wounded human lying before her and finally understood. "You were never our enemy," she said softly. Hale forced a faint smile. "Took you long enough to see that." But deep within the Terran flagship, an admiral clenched his jaw and gave one final order. If he's not coming home, no one will. And from the heart of the human fleet, a massive weapon began to charge, its energy building like the wrath of gods. The Queen's eyes widened in horror. "They mean to destroy us all," she whispered. Lyra clutched Hale's hand, her voice trembling. "Then we end this together." And as the weapon prepared to fire, the light of two worlds reflected in Hale's eyes. The world he came from and the one he would die to protect. The human who defied two empires. The stars outside the eternal radiance flared like 1,000 suns. The Terran fleet's superweapon, a massive, rotating cannon the size of a city, was charging for its final strike. Its energy core glowed red and furious, enough to tear through the Queen's flagship and the entire Velaron armada in one devastating shot. Hale struggled to his feet, his armor cracked and his blood staining the floor. "If that cannon fires," he rasped, "no one will survive." The Queen stood beside her throne, her expression torn between rage and sorrow. "Your people have chosen destruction," she said bitterly. Hale shook his head. "No, Queen. My people chose fear." Lyra turned to him, desperation shining in her violet eyes. "Then stop them," she pleaded. "You are one of them. You can reach them." Hale's gaze hardened. "I'll try, but you have to let me go." The Queen looked at him, her voice trembling. "If you leave this ship, the thread will pull both your lives apart." Hale took a slow breath. "Then it'll have to pull us together instead." He walked toward the launch bay. Staggering but determined, the crew tried to stop him, but Lyra followed close behind. "You're not doing this alone," she said. "If we're bound, then we face destiny together." Hale wanted to protest, but when he saw the fire in her eyes, he simply nodded. "All right. Princess, let's make history." Moments later, their shuttle burst out of the eternal radiance, racing toward the Terran flagship. The human fleet detected them instantly. "Incoming craft," a voice shouted through static. "Identify yourself." Hale opened the comm channel, his voice rough but steady. "This is Captain Ryan Hale, Terran Defense Command. I'm alive, and you're about to kill me and a lot of innocent people." The control room aboard the Terran flagship went silent. The Admiral's face appeared on the comm screen, cold and sharp. "Hale," he said slowly, "you're supposed to be dead." Hale smirked. "Yeah, I get that a lot." The Admiral frowned. "You're being held hostage by aliens. We're here to extract you." "I'm not their hostage," Hale shot back. "I'm their protector, and if you fire that weapon, you'll start a war Earth can't win." The Admiral's tone hardened. "You're compromised, Captain. Step aside." Hale glanced at Lyra, who stood silently beside him, her hand hovering over the comm controls. "Admiral, you ever heard of the Protector's thread?" Hale said quietly. "If I die, she dies. If she dies, I die. That's the reality now." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Then you've betrayed your species," Hale smiled faintly. "No, sir, I'm trying to save it." Without warning, the Terran cannon began to hum louder. The final charging sequence engaging, Lyra gasped. "They're not stopping." Hale clenched his fists. "Then we'll make them." He slammed the shuttle's thrusters to maximum, aiming straight for the weapon's core. The Queen's voice crackled through the comms. "Hale, what are you doing?" He replied calmly. "Finishing what I started." Lyra's voice shook. "Ryan, if we hit that core." He looked at her and smiled softly. "Then the galaxy will remember what a human and a princess did together." The shuttle screamed toward the blazing weapon. Alarms blaring inside the Terran flagship. Chaos erupted. "He's going to ram the core," shouted an officer. "Stop him!" Missiles streaked through space. But Lyra raised her hands, her energy flaring bright. A shimmering barrier of violet light surrounded their ship, blocking each missile with thunderous explosions. As they neared the weapon, Hale could see the cannon's massive coils spinning. "Now!" he shouted. Lyra reached out, her energy merging with the shuttle systems. The thread between them pulsed, glowing across space like a heartbeat. "If we die," she whispered, "then we die as one." Hale nodded. Together, the shuttle pierced the outer shield, flames engulfing the hull. The energy from Lyra's power surged into the weapon's reactor, merging with the human energy field. For one breathtaking moment, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Then, a blinding burst of light. The explosion rippled through space, not as destruction, but as pure resonant energy. The blast didn't kill. It silenced the weapons of both fleets, disabling their systems completely. "Engines went dead. Weapons cooled, shields collapsed. Yet no one perished. In the aftermath, the two armadas drifted quietly. The stars glowed blue where the shockwave had passed, and from its center, a single pulse of light remained, two silhouettes intertwined within it, fading into the cosmic glow. The queen fell to her knees as the image of her daughter dissolved into the light. "Lyra," she whispered, tears streaming down her face, and the human. Weeks later, sensors picked up something impossible. Two life signs deep within a newly formed nebula near Velara Prime. The readings showed a human heartbeat, and another beside it beating in perfect sync. Some say the explosion fused their life forces beyond the reach of death. Others say they became part of the stars themselves, guardians of peace between two civilizations that once hated each other. The queen built a monument in orbit, a statue of a human soldier and an alien princess standing side by side beneath the banner of two worlds. The inscription read, "He saved her from death, and together, they saved us all." And far beyond the edge of the galaxy, in the soft hum of the nebula, two voices whispered through the stars, "Still think kindness costs too much? Not anymore." And the stars shimmered brighter as if smiling back.